water commissioner said they can't afford the pipe. That is not right.
Billions collected. But why are Jamaicans still without reliable water? For years, Jamaicans have complained about dry taps, low water pressure, leaking pipelines, and repeated disruptions, sometimes while still receiving water bills. Now, a major performance audit of the National Water Commission has revealed serious weaknesses in how billions of dollars intended for water and sewage infrastructure were budgeted, managed, and reported. Between April 2019 and March 2024, the NWC budgeted almost $45 billion for capital projects. But in 4 of those 5 years, the Commission spent substantially less than planned. At the same time, dozens of contracts ran behind schedule. Financial reports remained outstanding, and multi-million-dollar financial management system failed to deliver all the functions for which it was acquired. Jamaica News Now examines a central question. If customers contributed billions towards improving the system, why are so many Jamaicans still struggling to obtain a reliable water supply? The National Water Commission is responsible for providing piped water and managing wastewater services across Jamaica. According to the Auditor General, the Commission supplies approximately 190 million gallons of potable water each day to about 2 million people. Its infrastructure includes more than 1,000 water supply facilities and approximately 11,000 kilometers of pipelines. The NWC reportedly provides pipe water to more than 75% of Jamaica's population. However, the reach of its sewage service remains much smaller, covering close to 30%. Maintaining such an extensive network requires continuous investment. Pipes must be replaced, pumps repaired, treatment plants upgraded, and new systems constructed as communities and housing developments expand. The challenge is made more urgent by the age of the network. The Auditor General reported that approximately 70% of NWC's infrastructure is more than 40 years old. This aging infrastructure helps explain recurring leaks, broken mains, low pressure, and unreliable supplies. But the audit indicates that age alone does not explain Jamaica's water problems. Between the 2019 to 2020 and 2023 to 2024 financial years, the NWC budgeted a combined $44.92 billion for capital projects. The figures show a cumulative difference of approximately $12.8 billion between the amount budgeted and the amount actually spent. This does not mean $12.8 billion disappeared or was stolen. A budget is a spending plan, not necessarily money already sitting in an account. Some proposed projects depended on revenue projections, loans, grants, and government approvals that did not materialize as expected. However, the repeated failure to execute approved capital budgets meant planned water and wastewater improvements were delayed, reduced, or deferred. The Auditor General concluded that, apart from the 2019-2020 financial year, the NWC under-executed its capital budget during every year examined.
Close off for the lack of much, tool off for the lack of much there.
It's long overdue. It cannot keep going on. It has to stop. It must come to a stop. We need the water everywhere, but here not have no water. And they're not coming up here to fill one drum. It have to be 3 drums or more. It's enough. It is enough. At 2026, at time for people stop building a bath pan. Enough is enough.
One of the most important sources of capital funding is the K factor, a percentage charge added to customers' water bills. Money collected through this mechanism is supposed to be reserved for approved infrastructure projects. These include replacing pipelines, reducing water loss through leaks, improving sewage services, and rehabilitating treatment plants. The NWC initially planned for approximately $15.5 billion in standalone K-factor financing during the 5-year period. However, the Auditor General reported that the program generated $22.9 billion, a 47.7% above the budgetary requirement for those projects. The finding creates an important distinction. The audit did not conclude that the K-factor money had vanished. In fact, the K-factor reportedly generated more than expected. The principal financing problems were associated with projects that depended on the NWC's internally generated revenue and an anticipated external financing. Nevertheless, customers are entitled to ask, which projects received K-factor financing? How much was spent on each project? Which projects were completed? Which community benefited? How much K-factor money remains committed or unspent? Those details should be presented in a format ordinary customers can easily understand.
We're tired of this. Water is life, and we can't waste it.
The audit found that the NWC's budgets for internally financed projects were not properly aligned with its actual ability to pay for them. Some projects assumed revenue growth from tariff adjustments, new housing developments, and other activities. But these expectations were not always realized within the projected period. The NWC explained that some projects also depended on long-term loans requiring approval from the Ministry of Finance and government guarantees. When those approvals or funds were not received, projects sometimes had to depend on the Commission's limited internal cash. The Commission also pointed to drought, delayed developments, and other negative financial pressures. The Auditor General nevertheless found that the NWC's financial position had weakened significantly. For every dollar in short-term obligations during 2023-2024, the Commission reportedly held only 50 cents in cash and near-cash assets, down from 80 cents in 2016-2017. By 2025-26, total payables had reached $33.2 billion, while net receivables stood at only $4.6 billion. This meant money expected from customers and other debtors would cover only a relatively small part of what the NWC owed suppliers and other creditors. Funding was not the only problem. The Auditor General examined 50 NWC contracts and found that 29, approximately 58%, experienced delays ranging from 3 to 29 months. The causes include contractor underperformance, materials arriving late, contracts beginning before the necessary pipelines had been secured, unresolved access to project lands, slow approval of contract variations, delayed payments to contractors, legal challenges. Some delays resulted from factors beyond the NWC's immediate control. The Commission cited pandemic-related disruption, sharp increases in the cost of steel and PVC pipes, labor shortages, and financial difficulties affecting contractors. However, the audit also identified weaknesses in planning, supervision, and enforcement. The audit also raised questions about the NWC's financial information management system. At least $3.6 million was paid in connection with the system, which was intended to improve financial record keeping and operational oversight. However, the audit found persistent problems affecting procurement, inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable, data integration, and plant accounting. Manual processes reportedly remained necessary, increasing the risk of incomplete or inaccurate financial reporting. In December 2025, the NWC engaged another contractor under a $198,000 contract to provide support and maintenance services for the financial system. This is significant because effective financial oversight depends on management and the board having complete, accurate, and consistent information. If expenditure reports cannot be reliably reconciled, it becomes more difficult to determine whether individual projects are on schedule, within budget, and delivering value. The Auditor General also reported that the NWC's audited financial statements and annual reports were outstanding for 4 consecutive financial years, from 2021-22 through 2024-25. Annual reports are not a ceremonial requirement. They provide Parliament, regulators, and the public with information about an organization's finances, performance, and use of public resources. When reports remain outstanding, public scrutiny is weakened. This is especially concerning for an organization collecting money from hundreds of thousands of customers and managing billions of dollars in infrastructure projects. Totally unacceptable. The evidence currently available does not establish that $45 billion was collected and then disappeared. The $44.92 billion figure represents the NWC's combined capital budgets, not a single account containing that amount. Actual capital expenditure was approximately $32.14 billion. The difference resulted, at least in part, from optimistic revenues assumptions, financing that was not secured, limited internal cash, project delays, and weaknesses in execution. The more accurate investigative question is therefore not simply, where did all the money go? It is, why did the NWC repeatedly approve infrastructure programs that it did not have the financial or operational capacity to complete as planned? Second question has to do with accountability. Can customers easily see how the $22.9 billion generated through the K factor was allocated and what improvements it delivered? Behind every delayed contract is a community waiting for service. Low water pressure affects households, schools, hospitals, farms, and businesses. Families without a consistent pipe supply may have to store water or purchase it privately. Poor households are least able to absorb those additional costs. Unreliable water also creates public health and sanitation risks. The Auditor General directly connected under expenditure and project delays to the reliability of Jamaica's water and wastewater services. The audit stated that weaknesses in capital planning help explain experiences such as irregular supplies, poor pressure, and unreliable sewage services. The audit does not suggest that every water disruption is caused by mismanagement. Drought, electricity failures, and mechanical breakdowns, as well as natural disasters, can all interrupt supplies. But when an aging system is combined with delayed projects, unrealistic budgets, and incomplete reporting, the network becomes less resilient.
Tell me that they billing me for service. So I ask them what service. We don't have any water from the 29th of October. We don't have any water. And I have to be spending at least $3,000 a week for water. And it's ridiculous. I'm not working now. They expect me to be paying for the meter that's not running and no water. Tell me that.
The Auditor General recommended that the NWC introduce a formal, weighted system for selecting and prioritizing capital projects. The Commission was also urged to base capital budget on realistic cash flow forecasts, complete outstanding development plan for 6 parishes, strengthen project and contract monitoring, improve financial reporting, align proposed expenditure with confirmed financing, ensure management and the board receive consistent project information. The NWC accepted the major recommendations and indicated that reforms would be implemented over a series of deadlines, including the 2026-27 budget cycle and March 2028. The public should now be able to monitor whether those commitments are being met. Jamaica's water crisis is not simply about whether the country has enough rainfall. It is also about aging pipes, financial weaknesses, delayed contracts, unrealistic budgets, and the ability of institutions to deliver what they promise. The Auditor General's findings do not prove that billions of dollars were stolen, but they do reveal a system in which planning improvements repeatedly fell behind. Financial information was incomplete, and many customers were left without a clear account of what their contributions delivered. The National Water Commission has accepted the need for reform. The next test is whether those reforms produce measurable results, not only in official reports, but in the homes and communities where Jamaicans continue to turn their taps and wait for water.
Road come up and now we can't get no water. See my residents here. Pick the clothes to wash gas school, leave in school, no water no out there. Clothes are for the lack of much, school are for the lack of much there.
It's long overdue. It cannot keep going on. It has to stop. It must come to a stop. We need the water everywhere, but here not have no water. And they're not coming up here to fill 1 drum. It have to be 3 drums or more. It's enough. It is enough. At 2026, at time.
Subscribe today, turn on notifications, and never miss the stories that matter most. Jamaica News Now, your Highlands, your news, right now.